Okay, so it is June 6th at 7:22, and we are going to call, I think this is an emergency session, of the Hartland School Board for a discussion of the TAN, which is the
Tax anticipation note.
tax anticipation note. And so what this is we, as a school, don't collect, or as a town, don't collect taxes, as a state, don't collect taxes until August. But our fiscal year starts July 1st. So we need to borrow money in order to continue to pay our bills and pay our staff that work over the summer. And so this is the tax anticipation note. The financial office sets this up, and they decide when to borrow from it and when to not. The other thing that we can do is borrow from the reserve fund, which we signed, which we voted on during town meeting. So both of those are ways to pay. So I will take a motion to approve the tax anticipation note with a potential principal balance, like this is the maximum, of $1,634,653.85.
So moved.
Okay, and a moves.
Second.
Beth seconds. Okay, is there any further discussion? No. Okay. All those in favor of approving the tax anticipation note, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, I'm an aye as well. Okay, so that was approved 4-0, and Heather's here now. So this is a piece of paper that we actually have to sign, and so
In multiple places.
yes, each person has to sign 5 times. So count when you're signing. Heather, we just approved the tax anticipation note, which is yeah, it's a loan so that because we don't collect taxes till August, but we start paying people July 1st.
Okay.
So
Do we normally do this?
Yes.
this is
Oh, okay.
Sam,
Yeah,
this is-
why do I feel like I've never done this?
The town. It's an interest.
it's an interest loan from the bank.
So it is. Okay.
Yeah,
It's paid
it's-
back so quickly that the interest is. So.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a revolving fund to make sure that we have, depending on when taxes show up, that we have money in order to pay our teachers and to pay our staff and to pay all of our bills.
I'm just so impressed that we are literally all here at 7.
Yes, we are.
Like over 2
How?
hours.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know how you do this.
Okay, so at the meeting, the appropriate entity duly called and held on. So I think I should fill that out. So
Yes.
that's 6.
6-6.
Anyway. You know,
Okay,
40
so
minutes.
I'm doing my 5 signatures. With my beautiful signature. Any other blanks to fill out?
Oh,
Show me wherever she tabbed it, Vicky. Yeah.
I was just making sure there weren't any other blanks because I wasn't interested in that one.
I've been wondering where that tap is.
Heather, there's coffee for you if you, and some
I don't know
pastries.
if you want to see it.
Someday. Maybe not
Though I
today.
did run the Murph yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so with Nick Wolf, we do it in June. You run a mile and you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and you run another mile.
You did it?
45 minutes.
Nice.
And like Nick and
Yesterday.
my other colleagues, there was like 7 of us, 8 of us who did it yesterday. They wear weighted vests. They were
Yeah.
insane. I'm like, I'm not brave enough to do that. Like I want to be brave enough, but
And I'll be running on how many of them with
Yeah.
the analysis and the complete stroke.
exactly. I know we picked the hottest day yesterday too.
Yeah.
And like, yesterday was also like the 5-year stride end of
Yeah.
the year thing, and I was like, I'm gonna. So thank goodness someone took pictures because I wasn't there to cheer my kids on.
Right.
I was so sad that Pioneer started with Monday Wednesdays this year because it was like favorite activity. this year.
Yeah, well, oh my kids. I think that's the first to you, but.
I think while the board members sign.
You can close the meeting. Yep.
Yeah, so all those in favor of adjourning the special meeting?
Aye.
Please say aye.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we are now adjourned.
Yep. And I'm gonna watch the room to make sure I let people in.
Can Can you maybe move closer to me? so
Yes,
that my voice
absolutely
is-
can. Yep.
Yeah, keep that away from me.
Okay. So we're ready. I'm unmuted. Okay. Okay. So I am going to call the June 6th Hartland Budget Informational Meeting to order. This is a required meeting prior to any vote. This is the fourth informational meeting that we have done regarding the budget. So we chose to make this one short, and we chose a different time on the chance that we may have caught people that could not make the other times. This is also recorded so that people can watch it. And it's intentionally going to be a short meeting so that people can get their information quickly and hopefully answer any additional questions that we have regarding the budget. So. Okay. Oh, and I called that meeting to order at 7:23. Nope, sorry, 32. 30, yeah. 32. Okay. Article 1. Shall the voters of the Hartland School District approve the school board to expend $10,950,028, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year by Australian ballot. This will be the only article that we are voting on. And for those people who have had questions prior to the last vote saying that they had previously voted, did they have to vote again? The answer is yes. Every time we hold a vote, we need everyone to come and vote again. So, since this is the fourth informational meeting, we're going to keep it short. People can review the previous informational meetings to get the full description. So what was removed after, what has been removed from the original proposed budget? When we first proposed the budget on the normal town meeting schedule, we had an informational meeting at the end of February prior to the March vote. And the legislature had changed the law literally 4 days prior to that meeting. So we decided, since the tax schedule was changing, we decided to make some cuts prior to the vote. And the goal of those cuts was that if every school in the state of Vermont, or every district in the state of Vermont, made similar cuts, that the tax rate statewide would come down. It turns out there were only 8 districts that made cuts. And so we were one of those 8 districts, and we helped the rest of the state of Vermont's taxes come down. So at that informational meeting where we chose to rescind our budget, we cut 2 full-time educator positions. We cut an equipment line item, which was primarily a playground, but it also included a replacement of failing lockers. And we cut substantial supplies from the budget. And that totaled to just over $500,000. Then we had a successful vote in April of this year. And then we had a petition to hold a revote. The revote was held last week. Is that a week ago?
Reconsideration budget.
Yeah, a budget reconsideration of the exact same budget that we voted on in April was held last week. And it was not approved. So we are coming to you with another vote, which will be next Tuesday, June 11th. And at that point, the board just got together last week, a week ago today, and decided to cut one more position from the budget. So that was a cut of $90,000, 539. And that brings the total number of cuts that we've made to the budget since originally proposed to just under $600,000. These cuts that we've made have made very little impact on the tax rate. And that is primarily due to the increase in our property values throughout the town. Any further cuts? So the cut of $90,000 took 2 cents off the tax rate, which for a $250,000 home, I think equivalates to $56 for the entire year. At this point, for that level of cut, we are choosing not to cut any additional teachers. It does not make enough of it, it harms our children while making no substantial impact to the tax rate. So we are proposing a budget. Go up to the previous slide. So we're proposing a budget of $10,950,028. So we'll go. So if there are any, go to the next slide. So I would take any questions from the audience at this time. And our audience is kind of small. And if there are no questions, I prepared some questions for everybody.
For yourself.
So, okay, so I'll ask myself questions and hopefully provide answers for those who watch this recording later. So I'm going to go through this again. When is the election and what is the budget amount? The election is warned for Tuesday in 5 days, June 11th, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Damon Hall. The budget to be voted on is $10,950,028. Ballots were supposed to arrive yesterday. The plane had mechanical issues and Murphy's Law. And we will send a notification to the town as soon as ballots are in and people can walk into the town and do absentee voting the second ballots arrive. Oh shoot, you've got people in the waiting room.
Where?
Kurt Peterson is in the waiting room.
I don't see anybody in the waiting room.
Oh, why does this keep happening?
Let's see. Nope, there's nobody in the waiting room. Does he want the link number?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. We've got
So
technical challenges.
the meet link is,
Okay.
you can take a picture of it if you want. It's here. That's the schoolmeet.com.
Okay. Okay. Let's see.
I mean, there are people here, so the link must be out there somewhere.
Okay. Okay, so my next question, for those who did not ask questions, is why is this vote so quickly after the failed reconsideration vote? At this point, we're running up against a timeline of July 1st. The next fiscal year, the 25 fiscal year starts on July 1st. I'm going to let you communicate with Kurt if he comes up with anything. So the state of Vermont has given us a 7-day window from the timeline that a budget fails. Did he come in yet?
Right?
Yeah, so he should be.
I'll look for him.
Okay. So we have a 7-day window to put forth a new vote every time the budget fails. We're trying to get a budget passed by July 1st so that we do not incur borrowing costs. So we'll discuss those in a little bit. Okay, so how can I vote? You can vote in person on June 11th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And like I said earlier, as soon as ballots are available, we will let the town know and you can go to Damon Hall and cast an absentee ballot.
Do you know when the town hall is open in Johnstown?
I believe it's generally 8 to 4.
And we emailed the list service with extended office hours.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, John.
Okay. What if I can't make it out to the polls on June 11th? So this is a tricky one because we do have elderly population that would like to vote. So we're working with John Paulette, our town clerk. And if you reach out to him, actually, we're not working. This is state law. If you reach out to him, he can arrange for a ballot to be delivered to you by 2 justices of the peace. The justices of the peace we elect in March. And so these are designated people that help facilitate the election. They will come to your residence, hand you the ballot, then you can vote, and then they will take the ballot back, and it'll be in a sealed envelope, just like you were doing an absentee ballot. And as soon as the ballots arrive and the mechanical issues on the plane are fixed, they will be available at Damon Hall, and we can begin this process. Okay, so there have been some facts that have been circulating on Facebook that are untrue, and so we're going to take a little time to discuss some of these. The first is how many staff work at HAS? at Hartland Elementary. There was a rumor that there were 88 staff members. That is untrue. We have 88 people listed on the school's webpage because any one of those 88 people may be in our building at any time. And the goal of listing all of those people is so that if a parent comes in and they see somebody, they can recognize that that person is approved to be in our building. Some of those people, well, of those that are not locally funded Hartland staff, they're primarily supervisory union staff. And some of them may only be in the building for 2 hours a week, and some may be here on a daily basis. So we do not have 88 adults in the building every single day. And I want to make that clear. We have 88 people that circulate through our building at some point throughout the year.
And they're mostly special educators.
Yeah, and they're mostly related to special education. So for this current fiscal year that we are finishing on June 30th, Hartland has 33 locally funded staff members. We are proposing for the next fiscal year, which starts on July 1st, to have 31 locally funded staff. And those are cuts that you've seen us make in the past now 6 months. And just to highlight again that a lot of the staff that come into the Hartland building are supervisory union employees, not locally funded. And we cannot control how many supervisory union employees are in the building, partially because it's voted on at the supervisory union, and also because they're primarily special education staff, which are based required positions.
Based on the IEPs.
Yeah, based
Based on
on the
student,
individual
yeah.
needs of each student.
Yeah.
Again, what is the budget amount? The budget amount is $10,950,028. Let me go down. Okay. Do we need to vote at every election? I said this previously. Yes, you need to exercise your right to vote at every time we have an election. So anyone that has voted previously, those votes no longer count. You need to show up on June 11th. Okay. Has the supervisory union budget already passed? Yes. At this point, we are required to pay our portion of the supervisory union assessments. That is no longer negotiable. And that was completed in March of this year. We did, there are several of us also on the supervisory union board. After the budgets, all of the budgets in the supervisory union were rescinded prior to the town meeting vote. And at that time, we chose to reopen the SU budget, and we chose to make cuts to the SU budget at that time. So the cuts to the SU budget have already happened. All of the other communities have approved their school budgets. Hartland is the only one that has not. And since those budgets are approved and can no longer be reopened, we are required to pay the SU assessment. Okay, how is the budget for high school tuition determined? High school tuition is the biggest driver of our increase at just under $400,000. And high school tuition to some is a boogeyman because we tuition our students to another high school. The advantage to high school tuition is that we only pay for the students we send. If we send an extra 3 students, we pay the cost for an extra 3 students because we have that high school population. If we lose 3 students in high school, we no longer pay for those 3 students in high school. And so our high school tuition fluctuates from year to year based on the cost of the receiving school and the number of students we send. So this year, and all other years, the receiving high school sets the tuition rates. Hartland does not have any control, and legally we are not allowed to tell those schools that we are only going to pay this much. So this year, those schools have set their tuition rates, and those rates have increased. And I didn't look at the percentage. The total tuition costs have increased by 13%, but I don't know what the rates were. This year, we also have the unfortunate position that we are sending 7 more kids to high school. And that cost I ran is on an average, based on the average tuition rate of $22,000, that cost is just over $150,000. So that is a cost increase, and it's based on the exact number of students that we will be sending to high school. And so this last year we sent 137. We are proposing to send 144 in 24-25. Okay. Will voting the Hartland school budget down change the supervisory union assessments or the high school tuition? No, the Hartland School Board has no control and no say in either of those costs at this point. Those are fixed costs, and combined, they are the majority of the budget increase, and we cannot change those costs. The only thing that we can change is supplies in the building, which we've minimized, and staffing in the building. So what's been cut? I went over this earlier, but we'll go over it again. The board rescinded the budget in February. The vote that happened in March had a school budget article that was not counted. That March, because the budget had been rescinded, if you voted at that March time, that was not an actual vote. It was never counted. And there's been rumors that we've had 3 votes. We've only had 2 votes in our community. We are going for our 3rd. And at our February meeting, the board chose to rescind the budget and cut a little over $5 million, or a little over $500,000. And that was in equipment, supplies, and 2 teaching positions. And the piece of equipment that is most devastating to most of us is we cut the playground from the budget, and we have a failing playground. So we're hoping that we'll find a way to fund that in future budget cycles. Then we had a successful vote in April, and then there was a petition for a reconsideration vote. That vote failed last week, and the board cut another teaching position for $90,539. And so that brings the total amount of cuts that the board has chosen to make to just under $600,000. At this point, the board will not be cutting any further teaching positions. We may choose to cut postage if that's necessary, but these future cuts will not make an impact on tax rates, which is our next comment. Will additional cuts to the budget save Hartland taxpayers? No. Hartland has 31 teachers, certified staff. Actually, it's not even teachers. The certified staff includes our nurse and our administrators. And then we have 10 non-professional, non-certified professionals. We have our paraprofessionals in the classroom, and then we also have social emotional interventionists. So thank you,
And your
Christine.
administrators.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well,
and
they're
then our admin staff in the front office. So for the most expensive item that the board can cut at this point is a certified teaching staff. Each certified teaching staff member with benefits is around $100,000. And for every one of those staff members that we cut, house appraised at $250,000 will save $56. At this point, the harm caused to our student population by cutting further professional positions, it's not deemed worth it. So, okay, what is the primary driver of the tax increase? Since our 2019 appraisal, Hartland properties have been estimated to be worth 31% more than they were in 2019. So what the state is saying is that if your house is appraised at $250,000 on your tax bill in 2019, that house is now considered to be worth $327,000. That $327,500 is multiplied by the school's tax rate of 1.62. So the school's tax rate is actually 1.62, and then an added multiplier is put on that to bring the tax rate up to $2.30, which is that adjustment in the value of all of our houses. Is the 10% budget increase in Hartland more than other local communities? No. The state average budget increase at this point is 10.7%. So Hartland is below the state average budget increase. The entire state has gone up due to a loss of federal funding. We've lost all of our positions that we gained to bring the children back up to speed after COVID. And then the health insurance has increased by up to 20%. everybody has been negotiating wage increases to deal with our inflation. And the school is no different from that. Tuition has also gone up because every school in the state is dealing with these same budgetary costs. I'll note that when we first proposed our budget in February, I believe the state average increase was 18%.
Mhm.
So as budgets have failed, and at that point, our increase was only 10%. As budgets have failed, all of those other budgets have been trimmed, and everybody's coming in at around 10%. And Hartland has also trimmed, and we're also coming in right at 10%. So we are directly in line and slightly below the state average. So what happens if we do not pass the budget before July 1st? If Hartland does not pass a budget by July 1st, the board will continue bringing forth budgets every 7 days or 10 days because we have a warning period in there. The Hartland board will continue to bring forth budgets until the community passes a budget. Like I said before, there are no cuts that we can make that will not impact the quality of our education to our students at this point. And those cuts do not make a significant impact on tax rates because of that CLA adjuster. And so we'll just continue putting forth budgets and eventually one will pass. The harm, I think the next slide is what happens. Okay. Every time we put forth a budget, every time we hold an election, it costs the Hartland School District $1,400. It also costs the community because our town clerk has to set aside 3 days where he cannot do his normal job. And he needs to manage the election. So these costs are real. And at this point, I don't see the benefit in continually voting down budgets so that we can spend more money to hold more votes. Yeah, next slide. Okay, is that the end of it?
Yep.
Oh, I thought we had one for, okay. So there's one more that, that I thought was in there. So every time, if we go to July 1st without a budget, we will have to borrow, the state will give us a certain amount of money that every school gets. And that amount is, if you were to spread it throughout a year, would be $10,000 to educate one student. The average educational cost in Vermont is between $18,000 to $22,000 per student. And so that $10,000 from the state only gets us about halfway to educating a student. So we would also, in order to make up that gap, we would have to borrow money from a bank at an interest rate of a little over 6%. So if we do not pass a budget by July 1st, we will start operating our next school year. We will be paying teachers, we will be paying educators, and we will have to borrow money from the bank at an interest rate that will cost the town additional money. And so we're putting forth a budget at this point. We are trying to save the community money. We've cut $600,000 from the budget. We do not want to pay interest. We do not want to pay for any more election costs. These are all real costs. And at this point, we need to move on and pass the budget. That is it. Our meeting was scheduled to be a half hour. This will be obviously recorded so that people can watch it at a future time. If the people online have any questions here. Okay, I will also be online and I will address any big issues that I see. And people are welcome to email any of the board members. That our email addresses are on the supervisory union website. I also believe they're on the Hartland School website. And they can explain where we are and what we're trying to do for our community. And with that, I think I'll ask for an adjournment. Board members, are there any other things that I missed?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Must be done.
what? Okay, thank you. Okay, okay. So at this point, I'll ask for an adjournment. Okay, Beth moves to adjourn. Ryan seconds. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, we are now adjourned.